This is a lecture on ethics, or you might say a lack thereof. And we're going to look at a number of different, really interesting controversies, beginning with a set of them that involve acquiring a product or a service. So acquisition controversies, just as it sounds, are controversies that involve the act of acquiring products or services. We're covering these 6, as you see on the slide. So we're going to start here with materialism. Advertising increases some controversial mindsets and behaviors, with the first 3 on the slide being the most obvious. So that is materialism, addictive behavior, and compulsive behavior. Materialism is particularly strong in Western countries, although it really is growing in China and Japan. And in the United States, this is where capitalism is the most advanced. In the United States, the government is structured in a way to strongly support capitalism. We are bombarded with advertisements attempting to convince us to buy products and experiences. Business people make decisions on the basis of how to maximize their profit. And consumers don't just pay, but amass debt to buy these products. America is known as the land of opportunity, but the reference to opportunity is clearly perceived by most to be materialistic. So I challenge you to do something just for the fun of it. Do a survey of 5 to 10 of your friends or acquaintances. If possible, include some who are originally from the US and some who are not. But regardless, ask them this. It is said that America is the land of opportunity. What is meant by opportunity? Opportunity for what? Leave it at that. Leave this an open-ended question, meaning just leave it right there. Do not provide possible answers from which for them to choose. So, what percentage of your respondents defined it as, let's say, spiritual growth? That's number 1. Number 2, health and or happiness. Number 3, freedom of speech or religion. Number 4, materialism, like getting ahead or climbing the class ladder or owning a house and car, etc. Right? As you can imagine, most people by far perceive this as a materialistic opportunity. So materialism is a state of mind defined by an emphasis on material objects and comfort goals. While materialism is not a negative value on its own, many argue that it really comes at the expense of a focus on non-material goals like health or spiritualism or freedom or future security. There's 3 studies here, really interesting studies regarding materialism that I want you to be familiar with. We're going to call this first one the Branded for Life study. In this particularly interesting study, researchers found that United States children are aware of over 200 brand names by the time they reach the 1st grade. 200 brand names, okay? Now, more recent research, we're going to call this one the Family Influence Study, found that family influence can be quite strong. Children of materialistic parents tend to be more materialistic than children of parents who are not. And then in the Materialism and Consumer Behavior Study, people high in materialism were found to shop more, save less, and be the most responsive to advertising. Also, in regards to materialism, social comparison theory is a really interesting theory that was posited by a famous psychologist in the 1950s. And I want you to remember the psychologist's name, Festinger, so it's up here on the slide. Festinger posited with this theory that individuals judge their self-worth by comparing themselves to others. Now, research has found that consumers who are exposed to a lot of advertising tend to overestimate how well off the average consumer is. It is no wonder that research has also found things like this. When people buy a new car sales tend to go up among their neighbors. Remember that study from, I believe, lecture 2 on decision making. So we're looking at acquisition controversies, and we covered materialism. Now, addictive behavior reflects continued excessive behavior despite adverse consequences, usually brought on by chemical dependency. Clearly, ads for alcohol and cigarettes, for example, encourage addictive behavior. Our third acquisition controversy is compulsive behavior. Compulsive behavior is not a chemical addiction, and compulsive buying is not even an addiction to owning or consuming products. Instead, it is an addiction to the buying behavior itself. Compulsive buyers tend to purchase many items that they do not need, sometimes never use, and often cannot afford. Compulsive buyers are addicted to buying, not owning, right? The behavior itself. So we're going to look at this concept a little closer. For the compulsive buyer, buying is an emotional experience. The sympathetic nervous system is aroused with excitement when they buy, as evidenced by heart rate, blood pressure, and galvanic skin response. Galvanic skin response is a measurement of the level to which you are perspiring. Compulsive buyers often describe this buying process like being drunk or intoxicated, being on a high, and being a great rush, in other words. Again, these feelings are not experienced afterwards for the product, but they are a reaction to the buying process. Compulsive buyers also tend to find the self-attention appealing. In other aspects of their life, they may most often tend to others' needs, like children or spouses, supervisors, clients. But when they're shopping, salespeople flood them with attention. With things like, "My, that looks great on you," and "Here, try this one on." Salespeople tend to attend to their every whim, for instance, by giving them one-on-one service and bringing them different sizes, colors, etc. But these intoxicating purchasing experiences are often followed by serious negative financial and emotional consequences. Not only are compulsive buyers more likely to get buried in debt than others, but they often suffer from guilt and humiliation, and their relationships often suffer. For instance, their marriages are more likely to end up in divorce.